Let me talk to the men out there listening real quick. Guys, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction, fatigue, decreased muscle tone, lack of energy, low libido, brain fog, sleep disturbances? Hey, low libido, ask your girlfriend or wife. She'll let you know if you're suffering from that or not. That's sex drive. If you'll text my name, Clay, in all caps to 601-327-8550, 601-327-8550, Men's Health of Mississippi and the Clay Edwards Show are going to hook you up with a free testosterone screening. They're located in Madison, Mississippi at 120 Fountains Boulevard. You can check them out online, menshealthms.com. But one more time, text my name, all caps, Clay, to 601-327-8550 and get your free testosterone screening scheduled today. Enjoy the rest of this show. Boom, shaka, laka, boom. You've tuned in to the free-range human show of choice, your daily dose of reality radio. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I'm, of course, Clay Edwards. We are live on 103.9 FM, WYAB. We are joined here in the studio this morning by my Wednesday and Friday co-host, Mr. Shaun Yurtkuran, and we have a special guest here in the studio with us, Chairman of the Mississippi GOP, Mr. Mike Hurst. Mike, good morning, brother.
Good morning, Clay.
How you
Great
doing?
to be here. Thank you.
Good. Shaun, how are you?
Pretty good. Doing good.
Doing good. Well, look, Mike, congratulations on the new position with the GOP. I was really excited when I saw you were getting that. Like I said, you and I I've got to know you a little bit over the last couple of years as I've started doing this and kind of doing the breakfast and lunch functions and all that stuff. And your lovely wife, Celeste, congratulations on her win.
Yep, I'm married very well.
You know, I've learned over the years, if you keep a good woman, you typically have a happy life. So you know, if you have a bad one, you typically have a terrible life.
For sure.
It can for sure go either way. Well, look, man, the Guns and Gear text line, if you guys want to chime in, if you have any questions or comments this morning, is 769-241-1944. We may or may not take any calls, but if we do, the Mazda Jackson phone line is 601-879-0002. I know we've at least got Mike for the first hour here, so we're going to jump in. We did a big show Friday where we discussed Shad White's book that came out. Mike was featured. Shaun, how many times is his name mentioned in his book?
121, actually. 121 mentions.
121 mentions. Yeah. You know, and it only seemed fair, regardless of what side you're on or whatever, to have Mike on and let's hear his side of the story somewhat. Here's what he's comfortable talking about on the air. And we're not going to get into a mudslinging thing or nothing like that this morning. So if you're tuning in for that, you'll probably be disappointed, and that's fine. But Mike, how do you feel like you got pulled into this thing so deep, man?
Oh, man, I don't know where to start. Let me start by saying this. You know, I am the relatively new chairman of the Mississippi Republican Party. I've only been on the job for about 3.5 months. So, you know, what I told the Republicans was when I took this job was I wanted to bring the party together. We have obviously seen a little bickering back and forth among some elected officials maybe. But, you know, I want to follow Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment. You know, thou shalt not speak any ill of a fellow Republican.
I got it written down right here.
Yeah.
I was about to mention it.
So, you know, it's hard.
That's not Donald Trump's commandment, apparently.
That is not Donald Trump's commandment, but that is Ronald Reagan's commandment. But so I don't want to speak ill of anyone, but at the same time, you know, unfortunately, I just got to call it what it is. There were lies. There were lies put in this book. There were untruths put in this book. I haven't read the book, I will tell you. But people have shared with me certain excerpts. I haven't seen all 121 cites to my name, but I'll take your word for it, Shaun. But but some of the stuff that was laid out, it to me personally, it's just sad. It's disappointing because you know, the state auditor and I were friends. I mean, he ran Phil Bryant's political campaign back in 2015 when I ran for Attorney General. First time I met him. I got to know him, super smart guy, super conservative. When I founded the Mississippi Justice Institute in 2000, I believe that was 2016, I ran that for a number of years before I was appointed by President Trump to be United States Attorney. I recruited and we hired Shad to be the replacement of MGI. So I've known him for a number of years, and when all this came down, obviously I think Shaun mentioned this the other day. I mean, this is all federal funds. This is a huge, complex, large-scale case. And I had prosecuted public corruption throughout the state when I was an assistant United States attorney for almost a decade. You may have remember Chris Epps' case, the MDOC case, police chief down in Mendenhall, sheriff down on the coast, judge down in Monticello. I'd prosecuted a lot of cases, tried a lot of cases. And so when I heard about the federal funds being investigated by the State Auditor's Office, naturally it piqued my interest, and I reached out to Shad in January of 2020. And I think somebody mentioned he recounted this in the book that we went to Primo's in Flowood, sat down. And after the conversation, after breakfast, I said, hey, just by the way, I heard you were investigating federal funds. Could you have your office come over and brief the FBI, brief the U.S. Attorney's Office? Yeah. We'll absolutely do that. We'll get on that next week, and we texted back and forth about a date, and that date turned out to be, the Wednesday of the following week. And, but he texted back a little later and said, I get a little ahead of myself with the guys. They're not going to be ready. Can we kick it back another week? And I said, sure, that's not a big deal. We can do that. And so it turns out the original date scheduled for the State Auditor's Office to meet with the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office was the day that he was announcing the indictments. And so we in the U.S. Attorney's Office and the FBI found out about the indictments from the Hinds County District Attorney's Office and the State Auditor's Office the exact same way that the public found out about it, through a press release. And so, I called Shad as soon as we found out, and I said, look, we're getting a lot of calls at the U.S. Attorney's Office about where the feds. This is all federal money, and I'm going to have to put out a press release saying we found out about the indictments just like everybody else. And he said, you better not do that. You're going to regret it. And I said, I'm not going to regret it. That's the truth. Mm-hmm. And so we put out that statement. He lambasted that statement, I think on WLBT a year ago. But the statement is true because the auditor's office never came to us with this case. It initiated by me calling the state auditor and inquiring about the case. It initiated by me asking the state auditor to come over and brief the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office. We were not briefed on this case until after the indictments were made public. So
I did see in the book where he mentioned that he warned you not to put out the press release, kind of veiled threat type stuff, and then says that.
Well, and think about this, Clay. I called him before we did the press release. Mm-hmm. I sent the draft press release to him to look at, but there was no way for me not to put out, not to release the press release because it was the truth.
Would it look like you were behind the ball on the case then too?
Yeah,
that
absolutely.
would have been a problem. Yeah,
think about this, guys. He says he's been investigating this case for 8 months. So, this was February 2020. So maybe since July of 2019, he's been investigating this case for 8 months, investigating it, all theft of federal funds, but never once contacting the FBI, never once contacting the prosecutor who traditionally prosecutes huge, large-scale corruption cases like that. Yeah. I think you mentioned the other day, Shaun, DAs don't normally do these large-scale corruption cases.
The Hinds County DA's office, again, I said I've been there. I was there for about 10 years and prosecuted about everything you could have, including a death penalty case. And it's not built logistically for that. It's built for street crimes. That's what DAs, and this is all county DA's offices. They're good at street crimes, not complex cases like that. Now, the one thing I would say, reading the book, he talked about Richie McCluskey, who I'm very familiar with, or worked with at the Attorney General's office, one of the best investigators I've ever met in my life.
And I agree.
And so I know Richie probably put a file together that was great and can hand it off to a prosecutor. That being said, it's not that I don't think that the assistant DAs are capable of doing that. I do. I know many of them, very close friends of mine. It's the timing kind of that you don't have in a DA's office with so much caseload as Hinds County to work a case like that you would in the U.S. Attorney's Office.
And does it take away, I guess this is a question for you, Shaun, does bringing on a case like this take away from them doing their regular day-to-day jobs of prosecuting street crimes?
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. So when I was working on the James Hutto case, which is the guy that he killed a lady here in Alabama, killed another person, death penalty case, I kind of had to be taken away from all my caseload for about a year almost. I mean, I still had some of it because I had to focus so much resources on that which was obviously not as document intensive as something like this. So I just don't know how, unless they dedicated a team to just this case. I just don't know how they did it with the manpower. And it's not intellectual capabilities or anything like that. I'm just saying manpower wise, I don't know how you would do it.
Well, and you made this point the other day, Shaun. Jody Owens had been the district attorney in Hinds County for approximately 1 month.
Yeah.
1 month. Before that, he was the head of the Southern Poverty Law Center.
Sure.
I don't know if he's ever. I know he never prosecuted a case. I don't know if he ever tried a case before that. Now, like you said, you have some incredible trial lawyers in the DA's office.
Sure.
No doubt about that. But at the same time, the DA and the state auditor's office does not have a wiretapping authority for corruption cases.
I mean, the investigators that you were assigned to at the DA's office, and this is excluding obviously the auditor's people, are essentially process servers for the most part. That's kind of the money the state gives the DAs for process serving. You go out and interview some witnesses, but that's about it. It's not real. There's not real investigative work going on at a DA's office.
And the difference here, the state auditor said many times that his main goal was speed. His main goal was cutting off the money. And I hear that, but to me that shows not much experience in the world of prosecuting corruption cases, because in the U.S. Attorney's Office and I think the FBI, I mean, our main goal was getting all the bad actors in the corruption scandal. I mean, think about this for a second. In the MDOC case, had we not used wiretaps, had we not used undercovers, had we not used confidential informants, had we not taken advantage of the resources and the tools and the manpower that the FBI has, we may not have gone all the way to the top. We may have not have gone all the businessmen, all the individuals that were implicated in MDOC if our goal would have been just shutting off the money.
Right.
At the end of the day, in corruption cases, you want, just like a huge drug case, like a huge drug conspiracy, you want to make sure you get every single person that's involved, and especially the hierarchy.
Yeah.
And so, when you talk about a case like this, it's large scale, complex. Again, no disrespect to the state auditor's office. A lot of good men and women over there who are doing the job, but they don't have the manpower, they don't have the resources, they don't have the technology, and they don't have the statutory authority that the FBI does.
I'll give you an example of that. I don't know if you remember the murder of James Craig Anderson, the man that was run over by the truck in South Jackson.
The kids from Rankin County.
The kids from Rankin County. Well, what happened in that was Scott Regilio, he was actually in charge of that prosecution. Our office did a great job, and we got Deadman on the state charges, but we welcomed the feds to come in and work all the other charges on the vast amount. I mean, they were arresting people we never thought of, and they had the statutory authority to do it that we didn't have, and we needed that kind of support to kind of get everybody that was involved that we couldn't fit under the state crimes. So I think what you're kind of saying here is that, like, there's definitely people that could have been got had this been approached correctly at the beginning, possibly, at least possibly.
Hold that thought. We got to take a break real quick. When we come back, we've got Mississippi GOP Chairman Mike Hurst here in the studio. You have Shaun Yurtkuran, and of course I'm Clay Edwards. We'll be right back here on WYAB. This segment brought to you by our good friends over at Mazda of Jackson. The deals are hot this summer at Mazda of Jackson. You already know that Mazda is one of the top 5 most dependable car brands out there. And Mazda of Jackson on I-55 Frontage Road has hundreds of new and used cars available. Check out the brand new CX-5 crossover. It's rated 9 out of 10 by Car and Driver, and I'm just going to tell you, it's really, really a nice SUV, as well as the CX-30 and the CX-90, of course, are both rated 9.5 out of 10. That's as close to perfect as you can get without being perfect. They're in stock now at Mazda of Jackson. Hey, did you know that Mazdas include a lifetime powertrain warranty? Be sure to ask about Mazda of Jackson's special financing deals going on right now. It's time to choose Mazda. Mazda of Jackson, I-55 Frontage Road in Jackson, and of course, online 24/7, 365 at MazdaofJackson.com. And just a real quick personal note, when you do business with those guys, you're literally doing business with a local owner who sits at the sales desk and personally desk every deal. When you buy your vehicle, you get the owner's cell phone number. Look, I've been in the car business on and off for 12 years. I've never seen a dealership owner give a customer their cell phone number. They usually try to put several layers of people in between that. Not at Mazda of Jackson. So keep that in mind. It goes a long way. All right, here in the studio this morning, we've got my co-host, former Hinds County ADA and current private attorney, Shaun Yurtkuran, and as well as GOP chairman here in Mississippi, Mr. Mike Hurst. We're getting Mike's side of the story on State Auditor Shad White's Mississippi Swindle book. Mike got mentioned over 120 times in this book and felt it was fair to let Mike come on and kind of lend the platform to him a little bit to discuss. And heck, after reading a big chunk of it yesterday, I know Shaun and I both had a lot of questions. Shaun, I'm going to pass the baton to you here. I'm going to say one thing real quick, kind of closing up the last segment, talking about the scope that the feds can, the reach they have. You have to wonder how much red meat was left on the bone. With, I don't want to drag anybody's name into anything like that or nothing, but y'all all know the characters we're talking about. If you've read the book or seen any of the rumors and hearsay, you have to think that if there was a chance to get those people, that the feds would have had the best opportunity to do it.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I think that would have been that would be interesting to see how vast this could be,
or clear their names. Mm-hmm. And if I'm one of them and I know I'm innocent, like if you know you're innocent, I invite the opportunity to have my name cleared, and then let's start talking about some lawsuits to Brett Favre, for instance. I mean, I don't expect to ever see Brett in another commercial, whether he's guilty or not. I mean, like how much future income got lost,
Yeah, I think he's the Wrangler Jean thing is probably over with for him at this point. I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I would say first thing, Mike, though, he did do something really awful in the book, and he trashed people that went to Millsaps, and I got a problem with that because I went to Millsaps as well, and that was an issue to me. I know it's a liberal arts school, and for you guys like you and Tate, maybe that's not a good thing for me.
I think there were 4 of us in the college Republicans at Millsaps when I was there. But
that's what I was.
But it was a great education. No, it wasn't a good. It was a great education at Millsaps. It really strengthened me and prepared me for life.
Did y'all have Dr. Omabari? When you
I did. Absolutely.
He passed away recently. He was a mentor of mine, and
he was a great man.
Yeah, and
really opened your mind up to international law, comparative law. Forced us to read the New York Times every morning.
That's why I still read it now because of him, actually. But anyway, we were talking about how with the county DA's capabilities versus the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office and whatnot, but also in the context of this investigation isn't over yet. And the problem that I saw, I think I addressed this on the radio Friday, and when I heard about the book, probably like we all did, maybe around Christmas, I think. And my issue was the investigation's not over. There's no way that I would write a book or appear in a TV series about an investigation that is ongoing. And I'll use the example. I was just on a Hulu documentary that was released in February. It was a case I tried in 2010. The appellate process is over with it. The whole thing's done. And, so at that point, I was comfortable. But even then, you kind of, as a prosecutor, you get kind of worried about what to say, what you don't say. I remember flying out to L.A. to do it and, just kind of being little edgy on what I could disclose and what I couldn't, just because that's been my whole career.
Well, you're the same way here on the radio show. It's just like there's stuff we can talk about.
Yeah.
And there's stuff where I'm not going to pull the curtain back all the way.
That it's always, I just think that if you've been a career prosecutor, that's something that's always going to be in your mind because, you don't want to do anything to jeoprize the case, no matter if the case was, 5 years old or 30 years old.
Well, if you say something, wildly stupid, today, and I'm an attorney for somebody you prosecuted. So, well, hold on now. He just got on the radio or on TV and said something completely contradictory to what happened in court, and got to be grounds for a new trial. I don't know.
No, you always know it's when I do that with any case, even current stuff. I'm like, oh, wait a second. Now, maybe I had some loose representation to somebody or whatever. You want to be cognizant of the rules, I think. So I don't know ethically how he wrote the book. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, it was. I think it's a shocker to everyone, even non-lawyers I talk to. They ask me the same question: how do you write a book during an open investigation? Yeah, I mean, as you said, I was a career prosecutor before I left and ran for attorney general in Mississippi. But I mean, I would never even fathom, much less go forward with writing a book about an investigation or a prosecution that is currently open. I mean, let me give you a good example. So when we prosecuted the Chris Epps case, the MDOC corruption case, I think that investigation probably started around 2012. Chris Epps ended up pleading around 2015. And around that time, I think it was just maybe a year or two after that, or maybe it was around a little before that, MSNBC kept pestering our office, including when I was U.S. Attorney, pestering our office about doing an American Greed story on that case. And we told them every single time, we cannot do anything publicly on this case until the case is closed. And I think that story did not come out on MSNBC until 2022. So almost a decade after the investigation began, that we agreed to talk to press, because that's what you do as an investigator, as a prosecutor. You never disclose anything while the investigation is open or ongoing or things like that. And I noticed last week the state auditor was being interviewed on his book, I think down on the coast, and he even admitted that the investigation is ongoing, even though he said it's at the end. And again, it doesn't matter if it's at the end or the beginning. If the investigation is open, you expect as a prosecutor, one, your investigators not to talk about the case, much less write a book, much less benefit financially from such disclosures, and you sure as hell as a prosecutor don't talk about the case.
No, and that's what I found so strange. Like, why now did it have to be written? I mean, I could see if he wanted to write a book, like someone it's over with, or it's an interesting story. The book was actually very interesting. I thought some of it being released this early takes away from the gravity of what actually happened. And Clay and I were discussing this yesterday on the phone, and his mind, he said, had kind of been changed a little bit about the whole sequence of events and what had occurred. Because the stuff these people did was pretty bad. It was pretty awful when you look at the way they took this money, who it was intended for, and what they spent it on. For one thing, it's just unbelievable.
Well, and think about this: the book just came out August 2024. We can go online and we can see where Shad announced that he was writing the book last year, 2023. I got word that he was writing the book in 2022. From people who actually had seen excerpts of the book before it had been sent to the publisher.
Well, it feels like it was a race to beat Anna Wolf to the book.
Who he trashes in the book too, by the way. That's another issue, very fascinating. He says that she had actually covered up for Jacob Black, and that because it was part of a plan to usurp John Davis as director of DHS and replace her with Black. Which I guess the assumption is they had some sort of personal relationship. I don't know what it was, but that's what he alleged in the book. And then you're talking about the excerpts coming out. The Attorney General, who's featured prominently in the book and not in a very good light, by the way, is got a copy of it somehow, and that's why she recused from that Brett Favre defamation and the professor of Ole Miss. I think that's right. So she had got it somehow before I think we ever were talking about it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah. But we've been hearing that for a while now.
Mm-hmm.
Let me mention this real quick. There was two things that I wanted to bring up. One was someone had told me that he had mentioned me meeting with Nancy New, and that is true.
Yes,
I did meet with Nancy New, and how he called it foolishness. Now, again, maybe it's just he wasn't a prosecutor. He didn't have experience with law enforcement. He didn't have experience with investigations. When Nancy New reached out to me for a meeting, I agreed to it. And here's how the meeting went down. And this has been reported by Mississippi Today. I saw it. But the meeting was me, two other federal prosecutors, and an FBI agent with Nancy New, a colleague of hers, and her attorney on the phone.
This is an official.
This is an official meeting. Yeah. When the FBI, and Shaun, you probably know this, when the FBI meets with people,
it's not fun.
It's not fun, but it's always documented.
It is.
It's always documented. And that's why we as federal prosecutors always have an FBI agent in. Yeah. And anytime a potential target or even a subject of an investigation asked to meet with you, why would you not meet with them? We sat there and listened. And if you guys know the power of awkward silence, people will just continue to fill that void and talk.
Sure.
And we've had people admit things before. We've had people slip up before. I mean, to not take advantage of that with, again, FBI and other prosecutors in the room with you, you'd be crazy not to.
And I mean, and of course, as we know, lying to an FBI agent is a federal crime.
That's another federal crime.
And
that's right.
That's a crime that gets a lot of people. I'll give you an example here of it. You know this, Mike. Bobby DeLauder, who was a career prosecutor before he was judged. That's eventually what got him. It wasn't the actual act of ruling in favor of, I think it was, I forget the law firm, the one that Ed Peters was working with. It was he pled guilty to lying to an FBI agent.
Right.
So that's we always kind of joke in the lube community, that's like the worst crime we ever heard of, because it's kind of, I don't know the best way to put it. Like,
well, it's you hear the old saying, it's not always the crime, it's the cover-up.
Yeah.
And that goes to exactly what you're saying. A lot of people think they're smarter than the FBI or law enforcement, and they they can hide what they're doing. And that a lot of times, I mean, that's one reason we prosecuted the judge down in South Mississippi, because when he found out the grand jury was investigating his criminal activities, he tried to cover it up.
Sure. There you go. And so, I mean, yeah, no, I read that portion too from the book, and I thought kind of the same thing you're thinking. I was like, I'd take that meeting, and I would hum her up too, you know? I mean,
absolutely.
Because she's going to probably lie or do something stupid.
The second thing I would point out, the second thing I would point out, when he, somebody told me that he said something about me, cross-examining him and practicing in the mirror with Chad Lamar. Here's how that meeting went down. They came over to brief us. I asked Shad and Chad into my office so we could discuss everything that had been going on. And the meeting was about 60 seconds in my office. And here's how the meeting went down. I said, Shad, if you got some bad advice, we completely understand. But in the future, if it's all federal funds you're investigating, you've got to come to the FBI and to us first. And I recounted all the stuff, all the resources, all the tools that we have that they don't have. His response was, I did not get a bad advice. And if I had to do all over again, I'd do it exactly the same. And the conversation was done at that point.
Well, there's a normie over here. The vibe I got from the thing when he brought up the previous case that had taken 6 years or however long it was to get the prosecution, that was kind of his example for why he wanted to keep it state instead of going federal.
Yeah.
It just felt like to me what he's saying is we'll lose our political clout and what we can get out of this if we don't get the credit for it now.
He did say that in the book, right? He liked the word, and I understand politicians worry about, they're politically accountable to the public, and there's things they need to do to, but I guess that leads great. Clay, I'm glad you brought that up. That, Mike, that kind of begs the biggest question. Why do you think he didn't take it to you? The real reason, because it doesn't seem the reason he's giving the book is the actual reason.
Yeah, I'm going to let the public make that decision.
Okay.
I think the public has a lot of common sense. They can probably figure that out. I mean, Shaun, you were a career prosecutor like I was as an AUSA. The beauty of being a career prosecutor is you get paid to do the right thing, period. And, again, as U.S. attorney, you take that job being appointed by the president, knowing it's a temporary job. But, again, you get paid to do the right thing. Right. And if I can't finish a case in 4 years, I mean, so be it. But at the end of the day, I prefer sleeping well at night than trying to do something for the wrong reasons. And so I don't want to comment on what I think about why he did what he did, but I think the public can figure that out.
Well, Clay and I can comment on what we think about it. We did before.
I'll say this as we go to break. I'll speak for the public. If I don't know any of y'all and I'm reading that book and I get to that part, I say it sounds like he's trying to cut the legs out from a potential future opponent. But we'll go to break on that.
That would be my assessment, yes.
This is the Clay Edwards Show. We're joined here live in the studio this morning by Mississippi GOP Chairman Mike Hurst and as well as Shaun Yurtkuran. We'll be right back on 103.9 FM WYAB. Welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. This segment is going to be brought to you by Lakeland Glass and Tint. Get over there today on Lakeland Drive to the windshield shop. If you have any automotive glass repair needs, every new windshield comes with a free rock pick or crack stop repair card that's good for one use throughout the entire life of you owning that windshield. So if you get a rot pick or a crack, let them go over there and fix it for you. It won't be any charge once you've got a new windshield from them. And, of course, over on the Flowwood, at the Flowwood Drive location across from the River Oaks ER, Merit Health ER. The hospitals change names all the time nowadays, it seems like. Is the campus where you get your window tint, your vehicle wraps, your paint protection film, and your ceramic coating done. But look, none of that matters. What matters most is starting online. Get your free quote today at LakelandGlassandTint.com and let them know that you heard it on the Clay Edwards Show. And they are the Expel. That's the company that provides the tint, the wrap, the ceramic coating, and all that. They are the Expel Installer Dealer of the Year, 2 years in a row in the entire country, right here in central Mississippi. You're doing something right when you get recognized by a major global corporation like that as their number one installer. That's Lakeland Glass and Tint, Jason Anderson and his team, right over there in Flowwood, Mississippi, and coming soon to downtown Brandon. That's right, Lakeland Glass and Tint, opening a location at 042 Brandon, right on the corner of Highway 80 and 471. Stay tuned for that. All right, we're joined here in the studio this morning by Mississippi GOP Chairman Mike Hurst, as well as my co-host Shaun Yurtkuran. We're just kind of getting in and out of the vehicle this morning. We're discussing the fact that Mike was mentioned over 120 some odd times in State Auditor Shad White's new book, Mississippi Swindle. Shaun's had a chance to read the whole book. I'm about halfway through it. Shaun, what you got?
And, the other thing he does mention, and we discussed earlier, the speed at which the FBI generally works. And we all know, being former prosecutors and maybe on the state side, the state, we always complain. We're like, why is the FBI going so slow? I mean, every state prosecutor I know complains about this. Every single one. All you guys, I'm sorry, I just broke out the secret. We all know that's what we do. That's what we do. But, the interesting thing to me reading this was that, so Jody Owens' office got a conviction on Brett DiBiase, I think it is around December of 2020. That was the first one that there was a conviction. But the big kind of fish in this were the News and John Davis, which the feds, I think Darren LaMarca, once he was U.S. attorney or interim U.S. attorney, got convictions on those before Owens' office ever did. So speed wasn't an issue in regards to that. I mean, he was able to do that. Now, whether Jody's indictments expedited that, which is, I'm sure it did to some certain extent, that would probably be Shad's argument. And I get that. My whole thing from the beginning of this, and I remember when Shad and Jody did that press conference, I was in Colorado. It was right before COVID started, and I was, open whatever news site, and I see it, and I start texting other prosecutor buddies that used to work for me. I was like, yeah, this is kind of a setup. That's kind of what I saw. And what I didn't understand is why there wasn't an initial meeting between you and Jody Owens and Shad to discuss this when we're talking about the subject matter is federal funds. I mean, it seems pretty clear that you would go to the FBI or go to the U.S. Attorney's Office, whatever it is. And so that was always kind of why that was done, why he did it that way is interesting. I know he argues in the book again that it was because the speed of the FBI, he was worried. But I think you could have gone and had a meeting, and then Jody could have done whatever he wanted to do anyway. You guys, I mean, he's able to indict whoever he wants to, and then you could have done what you wanted to do, and everybody would have been happy in that regard. So I always found that the most confusing aspect of it. That he doesn't explain away very well.
Let me ask this as a normie here. Could you have not just stepped in and took the case as a Fed? I mean, in the movies you always hear the Feds have come in and taken it. Do you not have the power to do that?
Well, the Feds could have come in and investigated, and we could have prosecuted federal crimes. Yeah. As Shaun said, the state obviously can investigate and prosecute state crimes. So you've got dual tracks. But also, as Shaun said, normally when it's a case this large, of this scale, and in this case involved all federal funds, you're right. Normally the state investigative agency, and if the state DA's office is involved, they would come to the FBI and the U.S. Attorney's Office immediately, so we could all get on the same page. Why would we not want to use all the resources of all government, not just state government, not just federal government, but all government, to try to come to a resolution of this? We've done that many a times, many cases.
That happened with the James Craig Anderson case.
Yeah, the civil rights case.
Immediately, our office got with the FBI, and they actually, I think it was the DOJ, main DOJ.
It was the civil rights trial attorneys. Yep.
They're great guys. They came down, and they were here like every week for a couple of years.
Sheldon, yep, I know exactly who they are.
And our office cooperated. Actually, Scott Rahilio was a point man on that, and he was basically working with them the whole time, and that was it was a good relationship in that regard.
But that's a perfect example of getting in, doing the job without political considerations. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's really what it's supposed to be about. It's supposed to pursuing the truth, getting to the bottom of crimes that have been committed, making sure that every single person that is involved in such a crime is held to account. That's what should be the job of the prosecutors and investigators.
Yeah, there wasn't, in that case, was very political in terms of you were dealing with white defendants that had killed a black man, for explicitly racist reasons. There wasn't any way to take that whole case and what they did. And so it was highly charged, as any crime like that would be. And it did get political, especially in the black community was very upset about it. And then you had I think I forget who the U.S. attorney was at that time. This is Barack Obama was president.
Well, it was actually John Dowdy was the acting U.S. attorney.
He was acting at that time.
That's correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but it wasn't a consideration from what I remember that the FBI or the U.S. attorneys would come in and do this kind of work. That was nothing that ever really came about from my recollection.
And again, I go back to the Chris Epps case. I mean, the allegations in the Chris Epps case were he was receiving millions of dollars in exchange for giving out, I think, close to $1 billion in contracts at MDOC. Now, if our intent would have been just shutting off the money, maybe we would have gotten Cecil McQuarrie only, or maybe we've gotten one of the the people who bribed him and not being able to go up to the top and not being able to go out to the branches of other people who were bribing him, but because we started that investigation, we went through unbelievable financial records, and then we started the wiretap and all the undercover work, we were able to get everybody who was involved in MDOC. If the speed would have been the goal there, we may have gotten one or two.
You know, and back to that, Shad mentions constantly about trying to stop that next grant going to them. And I'm just sitting here thinking, if you also look at the other evidence in the book that he presented through Anna Wolf's initial reporting about how few people were actually benefiting from any of this money to begin with, it seems like a small – I know – we're talking about government money here, so it's a different thing. They're talking about our personal bank accounts. You're talking about a couple more $1 million to potentially get bigger fish and more people. Seems like a small price to pay, and, I mean, you'll get some of it back anyway. I don't know. I just felt like you could have played the long game a little bit more and had some patience, and who knows who knows how this thing looks today.
No, I think that's a great point, that both of y'all bring up, because this thing was so vast of the amount of money that we're talking about. It's going to be vast, and there probably is so many people that were involved that we don't know, that we'll never really know now at this point, that maybe we know, but there's just not enough evidence on them, and you can't get because of maybe the rush to it, which is just, obviously is concerning. I mean, but I think, you kind of see, is that a pattern here? And I hate to be bashing on the auditor. I have several friends call me from last week's shows and say, he's a great guy, and I'm sure he is, and I don't know him personally. But it just seems from the rush from the investigation and the prosecution, and then the rush to print on a book, you know what I mean? So all that together is kind of interesting to me why that occurred. So.
Well, and the excerpts that people have shared with me, the other thing that concerns me is the book is written and it's marketed as this work of history, but the numerous references, even in the few excerpts that I received, the numerous references to rumors that he put in there.
Tons of
references.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it almost makes the book more of a historical fiction than it actually, a documentation of what happened. Because why would you throw in all these things about, Mike Hurst is rumored to be running for political office? Who told him that? I mean, I didn't tell him that. I haven't told anybody that.
He said that the rumor was that you were telling people that that he'd covered up for Phil Bryant. That's in the book too. He says that several times. You remember reading that, Clay? I'm sure.
That's what I'm talking about. Injecting rumors into this book surely doesn't help his cause.
That walks the line of almost slander there. Let's take a break real quick. Come back, land the plane for hour one. We got GOP Chairman Mike Hurst here in the studio with Shaun Yurtkuran and myself. We'll be right back. Clay Edwards Show. We got 2 minutes left with Mississippi GOP Chairman Mike Hurst, and I just want to read a text here we got on the Guns and Gear text line from somebody who wants to remain anonymous. It says, you can be a great guy and still make a bad decision because you let ambition blind you. And that kind of carries on to the conversation we were just having. I feel like that's what Shad has done here. This is Clay Edwards' opinion here. He's kind of let future political ambitions blind him in the short term. And we'll see how it works out because, I see him attacking Republicans. Then I see him teaming up and doing stuff with Democrats and left-wing media trying to get this word out there for whatever reason. I'm like, well, then he's doing the DEI stuff. And it just feels like, who are you serving two masters? You're aggravating both sides. And then you're going to expect somebody to get out and vote for you, allegedly, potentially, in a gubernatorial race in the future if that's your big picture. I'd pick a side. I'd pick a lane.
I heard a very wise political advisor say one time that politics is a game of addition, not subtraction.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of wisdom to that. All I can speak to is what actually factually happened. Again, as chairman of the Republican Party, I hope to bring others back together. I hope to bring folks into the fold. But at the end of the day, when someone says things that aren't true, I feel a need to clarify the record.
Yeah, I mean, I totally understand. Mike, if I read that book and I was you, I probably would want to clarify some of those things too. I can understand.
Well, of course. I mean, I'm human, so the initial reaction was anger. But as you guys have mentioned, I married a very good woman who has calmed me down a lot and have very good friends who give very good advice. And this is, again, this is the right way forward. This is the adult way forward. And I think just clarifying the record without anger, without, anything like that, I think is the right way.
Well, Mike, thank you for taking the time this morning, brother. We really, really appreciate it. Respect you for getting up and coming on here and trying to clear the deck a little bit. Shaun, thank you for the great questions and the research you did. Sure. Guys, we'll be right back. We got a whole another hour to go here of the Clay Edwards Show with Shaun Yurtkuran on a Monday right here on 103.9 FM, WYAB. Boom goes the dynamite. I think there's never been a better morning for that phrase right there. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show with Shaun Yurtkuran here on WYAB. This segment, what's for lunch today, guys? Let's talk about what's for lunch on a Monday. How about first we talk about what's for breakfast? How about get over to Burgers, Blues, Barbecue in Madison or Flowood right there in Dogwood, right in front of Dick's Sporting Goods. How about stop by for breakfast this morning? It's served till 10:30. Try one of their Southern fried chicken biscuits, chicken and waffles, as well as other healthy options available as well. I think they got pancakes and all kind of other stuff. Not calling pancakes healthy, but you know what I mean. Get over there and try them today. Today's Blue Plate special of the day, red beans and rice with sausage or chicken, fried chicken, or hamburger steak. Every day now, Monday through Friday, they have a Blue Plate special, and every day a fixed option is red beans and rice with sausage or hamburger steak. And then they'll have a rotating meat like chicken, fried pork chops. Let's see here, country fried steak, and of course fried catfish, depending on what day of the week it is. You check out burgersblues.com, see all the Blue Plate specials and the full menu. And of course, look, man, when you got burgers in your name, you do burgers great. I don't have to tell you that. Try one of their award-winning burgers as well. The B3 Smash Burger is my personal favorite. The Lee and Perrins, the Sonic Boom, the Smokehouse, the Comeback Burger, or the Highway 61 Bacon and Blue. And, of course, the Nashville Hot Smoke Wings are one of my other go-tos as well. No carbs in those things, and it's oh so good. Check them out. Burgers, Blues, Barbecue. 3 great locations to serve you. Main Street in Madison, Dogwood and Flowood, and, of course, my little honey hole downtown Brandon. You can catch me there in the little dive bar known as B3 on the side of the building. Probably more than you should, but hey, that's life when food good, beer cold. I like it. Let's do it. Shaun.
Yep.
Wow, what a great you did such a great job.
Thanks, thank you.
With the questions there with Mike and the comments, and appreciate you reading the whole book and having that, just the wealth of experience that you brought to that. So much appreciated. I told those off air, I said, look, I'm just kind of a audience member today because I wanted to hear those two talk about that from their past legal experiences and careers, because they're going to bring way more to the table than Clay Edwards is. I want to circle back to one thing. Yeah. I didn't want to waste Mike's time with this, but he was talking about the feds, and one of the number one things they can get you on is, or maybe you said it, but it's lying to the feds.
Yeah.
And that's why he took, not why he took it, but one of the multiple reasons you would take the interview with Nancy New, that Shad kind of painted more like a backroom acquaintance type thing. Let's see if we can make this go away type thing. Is how the vibe I got from it in the book.
No, that's the vibe I got. I think you're absolutely correct. That's what seemed to me what he was trying to apply. And I feel like this also, anybody that knows the FBI and knows the U.S. Attorney's Office, how rigid they are. It's not, like a state. I mean, I think anybody that's been a prosecutor and law enforcement will tell you this. Working at a state DA's office is a lot more casual. That's the best way I can put it. Like, if you go to the U.S. Attorney's Office and deal with the FBI, everything's a lot more formal and rigid. Like, I doubt there's a lot of backdoor deals with the U.S. Attorney. Like, just in terms of the news, are just gonna, that's something out of a John Grisham book, if that were to occur. Like, I don't see that as something. Now, maybe the news stopped that.
But,
I mean, she seems arrogant enough
that
to
I agree
that
with.
I think that she thought that.
100% she thought that.
But meeting Mike now, I'm like, yeah, that didn't happen.
No.
That's not true.
I mean, you put your entire career on your credibility. You're the U.S. Attorney. You're not gonna blow that over some chick that's stealing welfare money. I don't care about her school. That's all a front. You know?
Exactly.
I don't care how good that school was doing. And I've heard that from 100 people.
Me too.
And I'm sure it was great. And unfortunately, it was ran by somebody who was stealing money.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard the same thing, Clay, about that school. I heard so many people have said that. And I mean, did that you're going to apply like a guy like Mike Hurst, who's a U.S. attorney now, the state GOP chairman, would consider a backdoor. It just doesn't make any sense.
And after you meet him, it's even less likely.
Right. That's what I was thinking. I was like, that didn't happen. And, I mean, or just anybody in that position. I mean, we just saw Bob Menendez took money, right? There's always the bad apple that's got a high level position that can do things like that. But it's not, he talked about Chris Epps, there's people like that, but it's just not a very common thing either.
Well, he brought up something, and like I said, again, I didn't want to waste his time with little fickle questions. I'll waste yours with it.
Okay.
I'm playing with you.
Sure.
He mentioned that, you got an opportunity to catch them or you mentioned it, one of the other, you do that initial interview, and if they deny the accusations, that is lying to the feds, right?
That's what got. Yeah, I mean, if they ask them specific questions that they proved to be false, sure, absolutely. That's what.
And then that's a federal charge.
Yep, it's a federal charge, and I think it's punishable by 5 years. I could be wrong about that. I'm not a federal.
So that initial interview, where they come and knock on my door for something I did, and I deny it, I've now lied to the feds.
Yeah. I guess if the feds want to construe it that way, it'd be up to them. But that's kind of I didn't want to say this in front of Mike, but that's kind of the thing that people in the legal community say. The feds will decide whether you lied to them or not. So let's put it that way. So I mean, that's what got Bobby DeLauder in the end, and because people always would say like, well, wow, I can't believe Judge DeLauder talked to the feds, So, and I think he had misrepresented what he had done with that ruling, but they found like an email from Ed Peters discussing it. So that's how they did it there. But yeah, I mean, it's they could have definitely got on there. Apparently it's it's an easy thing for them to do, and everybody's kind of aware of that. So yeah, no, I understand why he took the meeting. I think everything you said is exactly accurate.
It paints it completely different than the way it's portrayed in the book.
Right, absolutely, yeah.
Now, and we'll say this just for the sake of that's Mike's side, but clearly he can back that up with. He wouldn't say that all these other people were there if that wasn't true.
Sure,
so I believe what he said.
Yeah, the FBI's not going to lie about it to him, right? Yeah. I don't think. And also he did bring up something else about, and I didn't get to address it as much about talking about rumors in the book. He talks about a rumor about Mike saying that Shad's covering for Phil Bryant. And the book is full of a lot of grievances with people. It's a very grievance-filled novel. There's grievances. Obviously, Mike is the main target. And then there's Bob Anderson he attacks in that book. The CPA board he attacks in that book. Lynn Finch is just taken to the woodshed.
And I hadn't got that's on the back half. Yeah. And I hadn't got to there yet, but I'm obviously taking your word for that.
And I'm sure she'd agree with me. I know we know some of her people listen, so I'm sure she probably agrees with us. And then Anna Wolf which though that part I kind of agreed with because of what So yeah, there were some parts in there, but so he really does take a lot of grievances out on a lot of people. And I think you and I were talking this weekend, and after reading the whole thing, what I didn't understand is the story is an interesting story. It's a bunch of people did take this money, whatever you feel about taxes on welfare money or whatever it is, and money that was intended for poor people, and used it to enrich themselves and go to nice dinners and buy cars and houses and all these things. So it's kind of disgusting. Build volleyball courts.
Yeah, I'll go finish.
What I was saying.
I thought you were done.
No. So through that, that is, if he just wrote about that part, I think he could have left out the grievance thing. The story is interesting enough of what happened, what the auditors did. I think he could have said, look, we took it to Jody because it was going to be prosecuted quicker. We wanted to stop. Okay, that's a reasonable explanation, I think, for you to say. But then to just expand on this war with Mike was just not, I don't think very, I didn't see the point of doing that. You could have left that part out and just still made your point in the book. That was,
Yeah, okay, so I want to say one thing is after reading half the book and understanding it a little better, and finally having it written, and I like the book. I don't care for the grievances, but as far as explaining this case
it's very
to a normie, I now understand the scope of it better than I ever did before, and so I am appreciative of that. Mm-hmm. It's clearly politically charged.
Sure.
I mean, there's clearly, in my opinion, political motivation, ambitious political motivation to write this book. I don't know that the charges were political. I mean, they clearly were guilty, and he did a great job pursuing that.
Sure.
But, I don't know, man. It feels a little dirty to me. And then, I know what I was going to say. I'm sorry, I got a little sidetracked. Is is I have changed my mind. I told you this yesterday, and I'll say this publicly. I have been saying at the beginning of this TANF stuff did not interest me because, frankly, taxation is theft, and whoever steals it from the tax man, I don't really care. I can now say that taxation is still theft 100%. But damn it, if I have to pay them, you better not damn be stealing them and buying a house.
That's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
You know,
why can't I buy the house?
Yeah, I'm a little more concerned about that than I originally was, and that was just my initial knee-jerk reaction to it. But after understanding it a little bit better now, I can agree that they absolutely. I am more concerned about it now.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, okay, you're going to take my money. You need to spend it the way it's supposed to be spent, and not on you going to strip clubs. You know what I mean? Like I don't like. I want to go to strip clubs with my money. I want to go buy a house with my money. Like, why are you getting to do that with my money? Like, that's not cool. I mean, and all kidding aside, this money was intended for the weakest, the poorest among us, and it was doled out to people to just have a good time and buy big houses and cars and go to $1,000 dinners, and it just wasn't. It's a horrible thing, And so Shad, like, that part of the book was great. I really liked it. I really glad I read the book, and I would have liked it. Two things: if he left out the grievances, and if he written this after he was out of office. Yeah, those two things.
The chapter about the news really opened it up for me and expanded upon it better.
Yeah,
and I was like, okay, I get this now.
Mm-hmm. And I think if he'd written this book in like 2035 when he was out of office or whatever, or even not even state auditor anymore, like let's say he gets elected governor, if he'd written the book, I think great, and the investigation was over, and all that stuff, it's very interesting historically for the state to look at what happened for the people to understand. And I do recommend people to read the book and look at it from that perspective. And you're not understanding that scandal, that it was a horrible thing. And, lots of people that, poor people didn't get money that was intended for them. And a lot of people went to dinner on that money and bought, trucks and everything else. So I think it's important from that perspective. And this kind of stuff that he did takes away from that in my mind. And that's an unfortunate thing.
Let's go ahead and take a break real quick before we dive into this any further. I don't want to run over. We only got a minute left anyway, 30 seconds left. This is the Clay Edwards Show with Shaun Yurtkuran. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll be right back on WYAB. Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. If you guys want to call in, you want to talk about anything that just happened, the Mazda Jackson phone line, 601-879-0002. Breaking rules when necessary. Welcome back in to the Clay Edwards Show. This segment brought to you by Johnny's Pizza House right out there in Ridgeland and Gluckstadt. Do you want some delicious food that is one of a kind? Johnny's Pizza House, a beloved institution rooted in the heart of Louisiana. It isn't just a place to grab a slice. It's a slice of Louisiana life. Johnny's has all your favorites, but they also are your destination for something unique. How about try pizzas such as the Hog Heaven? It's revved up with smoked ham, bacon, sausage, spicy smoked andouille, jalapenos, and, of course, mozzarella cheese. Y'all know me. I love some mozzarella cheese. Hey, they also got a muffaletta. It's a winning combination of salami, ham, olive mix, and mozzarella cheese. Let's just be honest. If you want a muffaletta, I don't have to tell you what's on it. You know they're great. Get you one on that Gambino's bread. Look, they got shareables such as loaded cheese sticks with cheddar cheese, bacon, jalapenos. They got wings, cinnamon sticks, and, of course, try the 8-inch chocolate bar today. They got lunch specials starting as low as $5.99. And let me find my little sheet of paper right here. I thought it was stapled to the back of that one. They've got pizza specials starting as low as $6.99. Any 8-inch one topping with a drink. You can get it as a pizza or a pizza bowl if you're watching your carbs. And, of course, the muffaletta starts at only $5.99 for a lunch combo with a drink. That's Johnny's Pizza House in Gluckstadt. All right, Shaun.
Yep.
Let's talk about this. Well, real quick. Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. Let's talk about this. There's an excerpt in that book about Jody Owens. Would you read it?
Yeah, sure. It's on page 49, the top of 50. It's they were talking about, it's actually interesting. So Jody had approached Shad and asked him if he wanted to be on the trial team and, to actually try the case in the eventuality that it went to trial. And Chad.
Jody asked Shad, did he want to try the case?
Yeah, he asked him, do you want to be on the trial team, to actually try the case? And Chad, I guess, kind of ponders the thing and admits that he didn't really have any trial experience. So he says he's not going to do it after a while. But then there's one, and so in the same page, though, they talk about, Jody says that Nancy New had approached him to be on the Child Poverty Task Force. And this is, for the context, this is like right before the grand jury is going to meet on the case.
So she had done got word.
Correct.
You're to assume she had done got word that that Jody was going to be the prosecutor on this. So she's inviting him on the task force and boards and trying to be buddy with Jody Owens.
Correct. That's what's going on. And then there's a portion where, right, then Jody tells Shad this, and then Shad says, I guess, they're trying to cozy up to you. And then Jody smiles and says, but I'm not that kind of prosecutor. So take that for what you will.
Rumor has it that that Shad told somebody that the book had already gone to press. And
correct. I've heard that, yeah.
And that couldn't be removed.
That there was, well...
And I'm glad it didn't, because it gave me a big old chuckle.
And I'm going to say this again. Like I said, I like Jody. I don't have a problem with him, so it's not like that's not personal or anything. I'm just putting facts here. Or not facts, or just what's
his office has been raided by the FBI.
Yeah, that's right. And like I said, it's hard. I've said this many times on the show. I can't trash the Hinds County DA's office. It's like trashing family because I don't
expect you to.
I grew up there essentially. But what I will say is that there are several segments of the book that he's praising Jody's, and I know some of the people that worked on that case. They did a great job. So I don't want to take away from any of that. They did a great job.
They got a conviction. They got a conviction, right?
Fantastic job on the case. And they're good prosecutors. But he does he puts Jody in a very positive light throughout the book. And given what we saw a few months ago and what we're hearing is about to come out, it's going to be interesting, taking that. And so, yes, we both heard that, those portions were in before, he was aware of or any of us, I guess, were aware of the FBI raids and investigation.
That's good stuff. That's good stuff. So, all right, knowing as politically divided as we are, I'm trying to figure out who Shad, and this goes back to my other point here that I kind of lost my track on earlier. I'm trying to figure out who is Shad trying to please with this. Now, again, great investigation. Mm-hmm. I have no problem with these people being arrested and charged and all that, and anybody else that could come down the pike that did something and it's provable, arrest them too. I don't care if it's Phil or Brett or whoever, right?
Correct.
I don't have a dog in that race necessarily. I mean, I think it's going to be hard to sell, this continued witch hunt of Brett Favre without maybe having let the feds do their thing with wiretaps and all that. There's no telling what you could have got had you been a little more patient.
Sure.
And that's just my normie opinion there. But so I watched a documentary last night on HBO. What's it called? Rich and Tasteless. Rich and Shameless. And there's an episode about Brett Favre, and Shad White is Shad's the star of it. Let's just say that. And it's got local agitator Brad Kamikaze Franklin in it. For some reason, could they not find another angry black guy that maybe actually had something to do with this?
They didn't get some welfare money,
Yeah, I mean, first of all,
that's what I thought too.
I don't think Brad's on welfare.
He lives in Fondren.
He lives in Fondren. So I'm trying to figure out why was he included in this. I don't know.
I know. I thought the same thing. And I remember texting you when I was watching it. I think I watched it before you did. And I was like, "What the?"
And him and Shad are on the same page in this thing.
Yes, they are. Yes,
I have a rule that I never want to be on the same side of anything as them, because they're always on the wrong side of stuff. And it's just Brad makes a comment in it, and he says that the only resolution he wants to see is Brett and Phil arrested at their house and perp walked. Well, I'm just curious, does he have that same energy about Chokwe Lumumba and Jody Owens, about wanting to see them perp walked? If they're guilty, right? Nobody's above the law.
Yeah.
Nobody's above the law. So I just found he seemed very out of place in that thing. Whatever, I would have done it too. If somebody came to me about doing a documentary about Chokwe, I would do it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I have any real business in it. But I had been covering these guys for a while.
Yeah, I could see you in a documentary about Chokwe because of your involvement in the media so much. You know, where I don't know what Brad is not. Is he? Does he have a radio show or something? I don't know.
He had a podcast at one point, but
how did they pick him? Did they just say let's find an angry black dude that is really mad about this and is like outspoken? I mean, is that what the criteria for that was?
Where do you type that in? Central casting?
I mean, that's what I mean. I've been on a documentary, and the reason I was on it is because I actually handled the subject matter in the documentary, so I didn't know what his placement in this made any sense. I figured, like, why don't you get some guy that, had applied for welfare funds or TANF?
Well, that makes way more sense.
And that guy could talk about how he didn't get it, and, Nancy got a new house. Like, that would have been something to do.
And it also didn't have to be a race aspect. There's poor white people, too. Blacks always tell me there's poor white people.
Sure.
Why did it have to be about race?
I mean, but if you want to put like a black person, I don't care about that necessarily. It's that specific black person that had nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
I mean, why didn't they just call Colin Kaepernick to sit in the freaking documentary?
Well,
it just didn't make any sense.
They were using race as like so many other people have, and that's why I don't mind in the titles of my videos and stuff. Anytime somebody black does something wrong or is involved, I say black man. Yeah. Because and I know what I'm doing. It ain't an accident.
Right.
I do it because they do it, and I know it makes them mad when you don't when you're not spinning it with them as the victim. So, and I know it gets me more clicks. I do it on purpose. I'm telling y'all what I do.
No.
And it's by design.
You do things for that.
It makes y'all mad, so I like to do it. I like making y'all mad. It's what I do.
Yeah, I just
hold on.
nothing. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, I'll forget this if I don't say it.
Yeah.
So it leads me to wonder, who does Shad think he's currying favor with? Because this is clearly politically motivated. I mean, the book and everything, it just is what it is. You won't be able to change my mind on that. Are you trying to satisfy the what about Brett Favre people, the left, or are you trying to appease the right when you do your DEI stuff? I think at some point you're going to have to pick a side a little bit and decide where you're at with this. Either get Brett prosecuted or move on and quit whoring his name out to sell books.
Yeah, I mean, because he is on the cover, Brett Favre and the welfare scandal. Now, I mean, look, I'm not going to sit there and I'm not going to hold water for Brett either. I mean, if you read the book and the things Brett did, I don't know that they were necessarily illegal, but they certainly sucked. I mean, I can say that,
I thought the lady in that Rich and Shameless documentary that owned the steakhouse or manager of the steakhouse up in Wisconsin, I thought she brought up a very good point. And I didn't expect to hear this from her. And I think she's right. I think Brett's just a good old boy, and he's always had handlers.
Yeah,
and he managers. Apparently, his wife is one of his handlers. He didn't even know how to activate a credit card one time when he went in there. Didn't even know that you had to activate a credit card. He's always had people that handled his business affairs, and either he jumped into this one himself, or he got some bad advice, or they didn't think it was bad. I mean, one or the other. I don't think that Brett. And I'm going out on a limb here. I understand that. And if I'm wrong later, just like I admitted a minute ago, I was wrong about something, I'll come back and I'll retract this. But I don't know that Brett knew that he was doing anything illegal and that Attorney General's office approved it.
Yeah.
Now, those texts out of context do sound bad. I mean, I think we can all agree on that.
Oh, yeah. They ain't good.
And buying people Raptors and stuff like this.
Well, that's the point I was going to make.
And does he know he was taking welfare money, like legitimate welfare money, knowing his history of raising money and fundraisers and all this stuff? I just have a lot of questions.
No, I'm glad you brought this up because the Raptor, right? That makes you think he didn't know what – and I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a prosecutor last night about this, about that specific text, right? Because in it he says – maybe we can get John Davis a Raptor if that's legal. And I told my buddy, there's not an idiot in America that doesn't realize that that's illegal. You know what I mean? Like if you know that if anybody, I could talk anybody on the street said, hey, look, I'm going to give this government official a new truck. And what do you think about that? And I think most Americans would be like, well, that sounds pretty legal to me. I think it's base level, like anybody's going to get that. So I think to your point, maybe he didn't realize it because he's that naive, I've
been hitting the head a lot too.
Yeah, I mean, maybe because I can't imagine any person that you would say that to. Hey, how about we buy this government official a truck? Like that, they don't know that's probably illegal. And then there was but I do think he understood the genesis of this money because he makes a statement to New, is the media ever going to find out the source of this? And she says, no, this is all quiet. So he knew something about the money. I guess
I would like to know what I think she may be brainwashed, and it sounds like I'm carrying water for Brett, and I'm not trying to. I'm just playing devil's advocate here. I wonder if she was quite the manipulator, obviously.
Yeah.
I wonder if she had convinced him because she'd been doing this a long time. Look, man, it's hard for us good old boys to wrap our head around the scope of this corruption.
Sure.
It's been hard for me too. And I just think that, like, Brett's like, this is so wide open. They have all these politicians. I'm working with the governor on this. This is legal. They'll fall before I do if it ain't. Yeah. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to play through my head how this could have gone down, because Brett is worth a lot of money. I don't think Brett's broke.
Yeah.
You know, he doesn't live that lavish lifestyle of the rich and famous athlete. You know what I mean? He ain't going to be on the next episode of Broke.
No, I mean, he's and I think he actually says in the book, Shad quotes, some things Brett said. Brett saying that he wanted this money because he didn't want to come out of pocket. I mean, that sounds like anything somebody who's financially responsible is like, I feel like I don't want to come out of my own pocket. I mean, I can do it, but I don't want to do that. And so I get kind of that. As like said, when you're talking about the volleyball court, yeah, I don't have an issue with that because the AG's approving that part. Did he know the genesis? Yeah, I mean, he specifically states he does, because he doesn't want the media to find out about it. The Raptor thing is what's just so interesting to me about his, because he would, like, anybody would have known that would have been legal, but he didn't. It seemed like he really was naive. Like, is that legal? Who knows?
Yeah, so, because if we were knowingly breaking the law, yeah, we wouldn't talk. We wouldn't have that conversation in a text.
Heck no, I'd be like, Clay, we need to get John Davis this Raptor. And this would be out. That conversation between us would occur in front of the studio, where nobody heard us.
Yeah,
like it wouldn't be in a text message. Like, bro, let's bribe this public official. Like that would. I mean, I wouldn't have to ask you, hey, Clay, do you think it's illegal if we bribe a public official?
Yeah, and I don't want to.
I don't have to ask that question.
In this, I don't want to paint Brett as a dummy either. He's done well for himself. It would be ridiculous to do that. I'm just trying to say, this is a very complex deal. The Attorney General signed off, the Democrat Attorney General signed off on it being legal. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of moving parts there. Let's take a break. We'll unpack it more. Guns and Gear text line, 769-241-1944. We do have a few texts. I will read them when we come back. The Mazda Jackson phone line, 601-879-0002. We'll be right back. Back in to the Clay Edwards Show. Guys, Martin's Market right there. It is the gas station / little mini supermarket right in front of Martin's at Livingston. If you're out and about this morning, want to grab a quick breakfast, fill up with gas, it's full service. I mean, it's old school. It's like an old, like I said, a little mini grocery store with gas pumps. It's really cool out there. They got all your little supplies that you'll need. Of course, everything any great convenience store would have. Cold beer, cold drinks. You can buy them by the single or the 12-pack, 6-pack, whatever you prefer. And of course, it's attached to Martin's at Livingston. Get by there, grab a great plate lunch today, or order something great off the menu. The Calvin steak bites seem to be a favorite. I got them last time I was there. I didn't get them. The person I was with got those, and I nibbled upon theirs while I ate my Creole pasta. You won't be disappointed. Today's blue plate special of the day is such small writing on this thing. Fried or grilled pork chop, and of course the country fried steak's available every day. Get over to Martin's, downtown Jackson or Livingston, and of course check out Martin's Market, now open there at Livingston. Everything's open 7 days a week. Check out Martin's Downtown JXN, or search either one on Facebook, Martin's Livingston or Martin's Downtown, and all the information will be there. They actually even have a third Facebook page for the marketplace, Martin's Market. All right, Shaun. So we were talking during the break, and look, I'm trying to put this thing into perspective for people, because I don't want to seem like I'm just going like I'm attacking Shad, because I'm really not. But I'm just kind of calling out, what I see to be a little, I don't know what I'll even call it, hypocrisy, but it's hard for him. It feels like he's trying to serve two masters, and that's what I was saying. It's like, are you trying to serve the left, or are you trying to serve the right? And his answer would be, I'm trying to serve Mississippi taxpayers. Yeah, but you're also trying to serve yourself at the same time.
Right.
Like, both things can be right. Now, it can be self-serving as well as the right thing to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, in a personal perspective, like when I tried that guy who was a serial killer, I promoted myself. I was like, heck, I'll probably be circuit judge because of this. I mean, when you're in that, you think like that.
Well, sure, 100%.
I'll pull the wool off that for everybody. When you're in public service, I mean, you are trying to advance yourself. You're doing the right thing, but people try to advance themselves. That's human nature.
Well, and I don't have a problem with it.
And I don't either. I mean, I get it.
I just think the book, profiting from it, and I'm a capitalist. I don't know. I'm really conflicted on this thing as I play through it loudly. But what it feels like, the Mike Hurst thing, he feels like he was Tanya, what's her name?
Tanya Harding.
He feels like he was Tanya Harding, and Mike Hurst was Nancy Kerrigan, and he tried to take out Mike's knees. with this book.
Shad was Tanya Harding. That is the greatest example ever.
Shad is Tanya Harding.
And just broke Mike's leg or whatever Tanya did to Nancy Kerrigan, which is the greatest meme of all time still. You know, we're going to have to like superimpose Mike and Shad's head on that meme. Somebody out there want to do that for us. And they, that's, I think he was trying to do that. I think Nancy Kerrigan was not just Mike. He was also Lynn Finch.
Yeah.
She was also Lynn Finch. You
could put about 3 or 4 heads on Nancy there.
Yeah. I mean,
and if he had known about the billionaire brother with the tire store, he'd have a tire jack on there too. You know.
Yeah, could he be knocking a pan of biscuits over Andy's head? He'd be doing that too right now. Like he'd be hitting that up. I mean, there's a list of people, but kind of
Delbert the cane.
Delbert, yeah, give him a cane, hit Delbert with a cane, or take away his like Geritol. Like, this will get him. I was talking to a good friend of mine last night and about some of this, and the one thing is, think about this question, Clay. Just we like talking about this stuff because we're in this business, and then we got Mike, who's state GOP chairman. Everybody that reads the book is usually a Politico, all that. Do you think your average Mississippian though is ever going to pay attention to any of this? Like your average guy, he don't know who half these people are probably, and he may not care. So
if it's made into a movie and it ends up on Netflix, as you mentioned, yeah, then I think that it will resonate more with people, and I think it's going to make a lot of good people look bad, like the fellow that was just in here.
Yeah.
Once it blows up like that, and I find that wildly unfair when the guy that I feel like is kind of the bad guy, and this is the guy that wrote the book.
Yeah,
I think Shad is the villain in his book. He doesn't realize it.
I think he kind of does, and I mean, I'm with you. Especially just meeting Mike now, and everybody that are friends with him or know him, I've never heard a bad thing about him, and I can see why. He comes across as a pretty genuine person. Mm-hmm. I think that's. But on Shad's respect, people have told me that about him, that they like him personally, and they don't know what this is with these books and I call it. I mean, this is called what it is. I'm gonna call it because of what we do on the show: shameless self promotion. Constantly, we all see it. I mean, he's been an effective politician, I think, at his job, but it's the things like this that a lot of us kind of just don't like a lot.
Well, look, I mean, I'm all about getting my haters to share my content and watch it.
Yeah.
So I understand that. And again, I'm not a Shad hater. I'm just kind of calling balls and strikes about how I feel on this particular deal, because I 100% support Shad's efforts trying to stomp out corruption in Mississippi. I would love to see more of it stomped out in Jackson. That honestly, if he wants to come on this show and defend himself, he's welcome to come on. But the first question I'm going to ask him before anything is, why aren't we arresting people in Jackson? So if we can't answer that, we can't have a conversation about anything else.
Well,
and his attack on DEI, love it.
Yeah. Oh, I did find out though, specifically the auditor cannot audit cities, right?
There is a quote from Shad himself in that book that says they arrested a mayor of a city for corruption.
Well, here's what I did know, but I actually looked into this just yesterday, because I was interested in that issue. So the Mississippi Municipal League years ago had put this in the law. Now the city can invite you in to do it, and apparently they've I think in that case they invited him in.
Gotcha.
To do it, and Chalkway's actually invited him in. So because I think it got so bad that Chalkway actually had to invite him in to do some auditing on it. I can't remember what the issue is. I was told all this yesterday, and so I mean I think so I can't really fault him for not tearing down Jackson corruption, because he's got to be invited to do it. It seems like
obviously
based on the law.
They're not going to invite him in to do that.
I think they invited him in for one specific issue.
Who would do it?
And they were still on like life insurance benefits, I think is what it was.
That's right. Right. Yep, they're doing that where they caught somebody.
But so that's not.
Chalkway wasn't getting his cut.
Chalkway was not getting his cut, so he didn't know what to do. Yeah. He's like, Chad, come here, find out why I'm not getting my money and who's getting it. That was his motivation for that, probably.
100%. Like, hold on now. I'm allegedly getting all this. I can't have them doing it too. It's getting too obvious.
Yeah, let's get the auditor to come in here and audit and find out who the bribes are going to and why they're not going to me, and then then I'll have them prosecute those guys. Right? That's the plan. I actually kind of believe that.
And all this is going on, with these alleged indictments of Jody and Chalkway and Angelique Lee and Aaron Banks and others allegedly brewing in the background. The next few months, nationally and locally, there's not going to be a better place to be tuned in to WYAB. And if you're looking to advertise your business, there's not going to be a better platform to advertise it on to a higher income audience, to a plugged in audience, to an audience that listens live, rips the knob off and doesn't change the channel than WYAB.
Yeah.
And of course, believe it or not, there's my podcast has over 10,000 downloads a week. That's 10,000 downloads a week. If I'm an advertiser and somebody's got a loyal audience like that, whether they're rage listening or love listening, my ears are perked up. And that don't even count what we do. We do 10,000 people a day every day on the live show. I mean, so I don't know if you're an advertiser and you're not here, and you're other places, you really need to holler at me and let me see what we can put together for you. It's way more affordable than you think it is.
Yeah, definitely. Especially, and it's getting good. So we got national fights and we got local ones here because this is brewing. Because you got to think about this too, Clay. Like,
we're going into the holiday season too. So if you're a retail outlet, this is going to be the place for you.
Yeah, I mean, think about what we got here. This is the state GOP chairman's here, and who's being attacked in a book from the state auditor. He's also attacking the attorney general. I mean, it's a civil war going on in that party right now. I mean, because everybody knows,
and they're all jockeying for 2028.
Yeah, 27, right?
27.
Yeah, the election year. Because this state is, it's a one-party state. Let's just be honest. It's a one-party state. So they're all got to, it's not like there's the Democrats have a possibility of winning a statewide office. So the Republicans all have to tear each other to pieces. I mean, that's kind of the position they're stuck in. In California, the same thing. Democrats control everything there, so they're always tearing each other up. So here we've got the Republican version of that, where they've got it's the night of the long knives. I mean, there's that historical reference when they're just trying to constantly rip each other to shreds, because the only way that you can attain power is if you knock down the other person.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going to sound like a hypocrite here because I'm kind of bashing Shad a little bit for this, but as a radio host, I love it.
It's great.
So I do want to throw that out there. Shad, thank you for writing the book.
Yeah, that's what I appreciate it.
But, so I get it, man. It's a complex deal. I just think there was other ways to do it. I don't know, but whatever. Make your money, boo boo. Keep arresting keep preventing DEI from being taught on college campuses and used on college campuses. I don't know. Again, it's a complex thing. There's a lot of moving parts here, and I'm more affiliated, and I know more of these people now than I ever did before. So it's complex for me as well.
No. When we have a war of, like, Lynn Finch writes, I don't think Mike's going to write a book. Like, Lynn Finch writes a book, right? And just attacks Shad. I think we just have to have a book thing. And one day I need to tell my Lynn Finch transgender story. I could do it now.
We're out of time. I wish what the rest of them would do is just start a podcast or start making TikTok videos calling them out. It'd be way easier for me to consume than have to sit there and dedicate a whole Sunday to read a book. But
yeah.
Let's come back, land the plane for the day with Shaun Yurtkuran. This is the Clay Edwards Show. Back in to the Clay Edwards Show. Shaun, we got about a minute, man. Thank you for we got 2 minutes. Thank you for coming in and doing this today. I want to thank Mike Hurst, chairman of the GOP, to come in and give us an exclusive reaction to the stuff that was said about him in Shad White's book. I believe we're the first media outlet he's done that on. So that's a big opportunity for this show, for this station. So, again, we appreciate that. And, again, I extend the invitation to Shad White if he wants to come on and discuss that, respond to anything Mike said. You're welcome to come on. I know that people in his office listen. So we always extend that invitation as well. And we'll be as respectful to Shad as we were to Mike. Again, Shaun, thank you for taking the time. I appreciate you. I'll see you again Wednesday. Plug the Yurtkuran Law Firm.
It's called Besides doing this and asking questions of politicians, I run the Yurtkuran Law Firm, and we do criminal defense and personal injury cases. And just anything else you need except divorces. I'm even though I've been divorced twice, I'm not doing your divorce. But you
wills and all that.
Yeah, I do wills and all that stuff. And you can call or text me at 601-906-9094, or look me up on Facebook. People do that all the time. Message me. I'll get right back to you.
Yurtkuran spells just like it sounds. You write it out. Yeah. That's how it sounds.
That's it.
That's how it spells. Be sure to go subscribe to my YouTube channel. Just search @SaveJXN. I've got multiple new videos up. I'm posting multiple new videos every day. Of course, you can find me on all the other social media platforms as well, @SaveJXN, TikTok, Instagram, X, Facebook, all of it. Check out the podcast. If you miss any of it, please share today's podcast. It'll be up here in about an hour. Just search Clay Edwards Show on all podcast platforms.